Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. So today we've got our first mowing job with the 80-inch Wildcat cutter that we got from CNC. So we're going to take the Bobcat over and mow Bill's hill. So in addition to some tall grass that he's unable to mow because it's so steep, there's a bunch of small trees up to like 3-inch encroaching on it, and we're going to take care of those as well. And I've checked all the oil and hydraulic fluids and everything else, got my door installed, so we're ready to roll. It is hot out here.
What?
Said I don't know yet.
I ain't got to get my hair fixed or nothing.
Too late. I got pictures of both of you.
I don't care.
I'm getting ready to start working on this job. For those of you who don't know, right about there, this drops straight down. It is very, very steep, which is why we're going to try and use the skid steer and see what we can do.
So this is the Wildcat 80-inch hydraulic brush cutter. It's got 3 blades on it, and we just picked this up from CNC Equipment a couple weeks ago. This is the first kind of job that I've tried to do with it, and this hillside is over at Bill's, and he's mowed this like a yard forever, pretty much. Well, it's very steep, and he's kind of getting limited on where he can go with it. And the other day, he got his big 4-wheel drive mower hung up over here on a couple of these little trees in this stump that's down here.
Super steep hill.
So we figured we'd bring the Bobcat T250 over with our new cutter and see if we could do anything with this grass, and then get rid of any of the stumps that we could get rid of, and then also these random trees. And then also the trees are starting to encroach on his little clearing, which affects his view. So, you know, this thing can cut up to 3-inch trees. So let's see if we can't push some of this brush back a little bit. So before we started, I checked all the fluids. I checked the oil in the machine, the hydraulic fluid in the machine, and also the water in the radiator, and everything was good to go. Also, when I first got this, if you've seen my other video on it, I overfilled the gearbox on this cutter, and CNC actually saw that and reached out to me, and so it has the correct oil level in that gearbox now, which is just down to that 1/8-inch pipe plug. This machine has high flow, but this is a standard flow cutter. And what I'm using is on the auxiliary flow selector switch, there is variable flow and continuous flow. And I'm using the continuous flow because I'm kind of thinking that's like my excavator that has the hammer mode. Is that what you guys get out of that? How are you running it? Let me know in the comments. Appreciate you. All right, well, at this point, I've learned a few things about this cutter and this skid steer on this steep hill. One is that I'm not going to be able to mow this and make it look like a yard. The bush hog it does a nice cut, but this ground moves so much, undulates so much, that either one side is way too tall to be considered a yard, or the other side digging into the dirt. The other thing is the tracks on this are tearing up the grass quite a bit. But what I did find that it does really well is cut down all these little saplings and stuff. And there are some trees in here that are bigger than 3 inches, but 3 inches will cover 90% of them. So if I can move this brush back about 10 to 12 feet, that's going to open up his view a little more. So that's what I ended up concentrating on from this point forward. Now, as far as cutting, like I'm going to use this over at my pond dam, and that grass is a whole different animal. I mean, it's orchard grass. So it's 3-4 foot tall, and I'll be able to cut that at 6 inches to 8 inches tall, and it's going to look great over there. But like I said, this isn't a lawnmower. The other thing is, even if it were a lawnmower, really what it needs is to do this in the wintertime when traction is good, because the visibility is so bad. I mean, I'm pushing into, this green forest basically, and I can't see stumps, rocks, or anything like that in front of me. Luckily, I've mowed this with my excavator with the rut brush cutter before, so I kind of know what's there, but visibility would help a whole bunch. As I'm cutting this, I'm keeping a good eye on the temperature gauge, as well as obviously fuel gauge and everything else. And I've got it running just below the fastest idle, so I'm not lugging it. I've got everything circulating real good. And I've had this machine overheat one time, and it was when the hydraulic fluid got a little bit low. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on that, and that's one of the reasons why, I don't climb on it without making sure that the hydraulic fluid is at the right level before I start. And I was just amazed as how well this pushed into these saplings and mowed this stuff down. Now, the problem I've got right here, and the reason I'm only clearing about 12 foot out, is there is a sheer drop-off rock cliff, basically right below this line of saplings that drops all the way down to the river. And the last thing I want to do is take a ride to the river in my skid steer. Yep, that's one of them rocks. Well, the nice thing is I know we're getting pretty dang close to the edge when I start hitting those exposed rocks.
This is so steep. The Bobcat was sliding right there, so he had to turn the blades off and put it on the ground to slow the descent. Now he's got it back running.
Well, that was a little exciting. And, you know, I've been watching the temperature gauge the whole time I've been doing this. And generally, if I'm just operating the skid steer without the auxiliary hydraulics, it's probably like a quarter into the green on the temperature gauge. When I'm running this cutter, it goes up to just over half of that green gauge, but it's still a long way from the red. But I think what happened was that last hill was just a little exciting, and I kind of forgot to keep looking at that temperature gauge. So as I'm cutting along here, this ends up just shutting off. And I didn't know what was going on with it. So after it shut off, I turned the ignition off and turned it back on, and the temperature gauge was pegged. When I got out, I looked at the little sight window for the hydraulics, and there was no hydraulic fluid in the window at all. So I went ahead and let it cool off. I actually came back the next morning. I just left it out here. And I ended up starting it up, and it started up just fine, and I moved it to level ground, and the hydraulic fluid was good. So I went ahead and cut just a little bit on level ground, and the machine seems to work fine. But it did overheat on me, and it did shut off because of it. So you need to keep an eye on your hydraulics and your temperature for sure. I really believe that the fact that this ground was so steep is what caused it to overheat and then go ahead and shut off.
I'm hoping he planned to shut it off. Otherwise, this could be bad.
This is what we got done in about an hour. And I'll tell you what I learned was, you know, that thing will cut 3-inch trees, but I don't think it's designed to just cut, you know, tree after tree after tree that are all 3 inches. That's definitely more of a job for a forestry mulcher. But the other thing was my tracks on my skid steer are pretty worn, and it was all that skid steer wanted to do to stay on this hill. I kept trying to slide down it, and a few times when I was driving up it, I had to back off and come from another direction. And then also that steep ground, I think, is what caused the hydraulics to overheat on this machine. All in all, I love the cutter, and I love that Bobcat T250. And I think for less extreme terrain and less extreme brush, that's going to be a fantastic machine. But only time will tell. This was the first job. We've got many to come. All right, well, that's going to do it for this video. Give us a thumbs up if you got anything out of it, and we invite you to subscribe to see more. Have a great day and be safe.